Welcome, welcome. So today I feel like we didn't really get enough time to do enough examples for the different forms of a quadratic equation and graphing with them. So I'm going to do an example of each. We're going to do it in standard form, factored form, and in vertex form. So I'm going to show you an example of each, how to fully sketch the graph, and different things to look out for. So let's go up here to this standard form problem, number 2. I like number 2. It's got a little bit more going on with it. So when it's a standard form, we talked about how to find the vertex, and I gave y'all a little formula, okay? To find our vertex, first, we're going to need to find the axis of symmetry, and we got a little formula for that. It was negative b over 2a. And then we're going to take that and we're going to plug it in to find y. Okay. First thing, I want you to notice that we do have a negative leading coefficient, so we should expect to see the graph point down. And then in addition to that, we do know the y-intercept is going to be at 0, -2. So with that little bit of information, I can go ahead and graph my y-intercept here at 0, -2, just kind of as a reference point. I know it's going to point down, and I know my y-intercept is at 0, -2. And so here we go. I'm going to plug this in. My a value is -2, and my b value is 4. So when I plug this in, I'm going to get the opposite of b over 2 times a. And I used the wrong number there, of course, because it's my brain. So b is 4. So we're going to get -4 divided by -4, which is just 1. So the first part of our vertex is 1. And then we're going to take that number and we're going to plug it in to get our y. So f of 1, I'll do this in blue. F of 1, we're going to plug it in. -2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 2. So this is going to be 1 squared is 1, so -2 times 1, so that'll be -2. 4 times 1 is just 4, and then I have a minus 2. And actually, this works out to just be 0. So our vertex is at 1, 0. So at 1, x is 1, so that's right here. And we know this is going to point down. And I can actually use my axis of symmetry, which is going to go through our vertex. I'm going to choose red. Thank you. It's going to go through our vertex. So I can get another point. Here's my y-intercept, right? There's going to be another, its reflection is going to be on that side. And so really that's all I need is my vertex and 2 other points, and I can just kind of fill in the rest of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, so don't sweat over it. And there we go. I sketched the graph. Sketch meaning rough translation of it. And it does point down, so I know I did well. So that was standard form. Now let's talk about factored form. So in factored form, your leading coefficient is still that number in the front. So we got a -2. It is going to point down. And I can tell you that if you multiply these 3 numbers together, that'll give you your y-intercept. But we actually don't need that. When it's in factored form, we can find the roots or find the x-intercepts easily. Okay? Take your factors and set them equal to 0 and solve, just like how we would if we were solving an equation. So basically, I'm just going to add 5. I'm using the zero product property here. My first x-intercept is at 5, and my second x-intercept is at 3. So 5, 0 is here, and 3, 0 is here. Now, we know you can actually find, if you're looking at the graph, you can actually just look and see. Remember, your axis of symmetry goes right through the middle. So it's that midpoint. right smack dab in between those 2 points. That's where my axis of symmetry is going to be. So I actually know from here that my x value on my vertex is 4, just by looking at the graph. But to find it mathematically, all we have to do is find the midpoint. If I take 5 plus 3 and divide by 2, I get 8 over 2, which is just 4. So boom, that matches. Then I'm going to take that 4 and guess what? I'm going to plug it in. F of 4, negative 2 times 4 minus 5 times 4 minus 3. Subtract. So this is me finding the y value of my vertex. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then I just multiply, and this is just going to be positive 2. So my vertex is at 4, 2. So here we go, 4, 2. And then we can just connect our dots. And there is our sketch. And it does go down like we said it would. And our y-intercept actually does not fit on this graph. So that was factored form. And then finally, vertex form. So when we're looking at vertex form, we've got parentheses with a square. That's how you know you're working with vertex form. Your vertex is HK. So if you're familiar with what the form looks like, H is the number in the parentheses. And we're always going to use the opposite of it. So it says negative 1. Our vertex will be positive 1. And then K is the y value. So positive 1, 4. That is our vertex. So our vertex is at 1, 4 right here. This is a negative 2, so we know it's going to point down. But how can we get another point? My advice would be to find our y-intercept. And number one way to always find your y-intercept is just plug in 0 for x. All y-intercepts have a 0 for their x value. So I'm going to plug in 0, and I'll get negative 2 times 0 minus 1 squared plus 4. So this simplifies down into negative 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4. Negative 1 squared is just positive 1. So I'm just working with negative 2 plus 4, which is 2. So our y-intercept is at 0, 2. X is 0, y is 2. And once again, we can use that symmetry to get one more point that is equidistant. So if this one is 1 away, then there's one over here that's also 1 away. And then we can sketch it from here. It doesn't have to be too precise because we're just doing a rough sketch. But there you go. So in summary, here's a breakdown. Use y-intercept for one more point. So plug in 0. 0y is our y-intercept. And that method will work for all of them. So just to give you a breakdown of each form and how they work. And then our exit ticket right here, it says what is the vertex of the graph of this guy right here? But this one is in vertex form. So I can change the sign of that 3 and make it negative and then keep the 4. And that will be our vertex. I hope this video was helpful. Have a nice day.